Beating. Oh yeah. Yeah. Influencer boxing. Influencer boxing. How do we like our boxing? We like it influenced.
I was hoping for a softer influence. Like, how do we like it influenced? And then just the music stopped. That would have been hilarious. But we're back for another preview show. Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. At least as of right now, they're going to box on Sunday in Saudi Arabia. This is an interesting one. We didn't think we'd actually get here, but we're about 48 hours away from this thing going down. So thank you for joining us.
We ain't there yet.
Yes, I know. I prefaced it. But welcome back, everybody. I am Mike Heck. Jed Meshew is back as well. There he is.
Because of boxing, guys.
Influencer boxing.
I need a beer. But I don't think I'm allowed to drink those on camera.
And joining us as well, the Prince of Positivity. He's our best friend. No gymnastics scale needed. Mr. Alexander K. Lee. Hey, K. What's up, buddy?
Influencer boxing. Influencer boxing. Influencer boxing. Hey. Hey. The kids love it. The kids love it.
Yay.
Well, AK, for people aren't aware of this except for just a handful of us, but you came on here, you had to think for a moment, and it was like an epiphany came to your brain, and you said, I had a take on this fight. I had a take, and I'm ready to throw
there
it out.
There is no later. There's no later.
It's now? It's just now?
I mean, is it a prediction?
We don't have a lot to say about
take?
this fight, I don't think.
It's one fight.
Hold on. First off, I have to start a poll, obviously.
Unless you have a lot of deep thoughts on Badawa Jack coming back.
It's just who wins.
I think we're really talking about one fight.
Who wins? Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, and of course, the third option, this fight still won't
The fans? Oh, I thought the third
option was that's
the
100%. That's 100% guarantee if it actually happens. But who wins? Jake Paul, Tommy Fury, third option. This still won't happen. I am skeptical. This is not my take. This has been my take like every time this fight gets talked about. I was certainly on board with the matchup. You know, when it was first proposed, everyone's like, "Yeah, this is the next logical thing." They fought in the same. It was like the first or second Woodley fight, and then they both fought in that same card. And Tommy Fury beat Anthony Taylor, and we're like, "Whatever, this makes sense." Tommy Fury's he's got a name from reality TV, from being part of the Fury family. He doesn't have an overwhelming record, so I mean, my interest was piqued. Now I'm like, I think I've said this on other shows. I want to see it only because we have put so much time into it. Like it's just I don't believe. I still think so much could go wrong in between the now and Sunday. I wish this was happening tomorrow instead of the Floyd Mayweather Aaron Chalmers exhibition bout, which also is supposedly happening. But as of this recording, he did not show up. Floyd Mayweather did not show up to the weigh-ins.
Is he scared? Is he scared of Aaron Chalmers?
Listen, I told the great our great editor of BT this morning that that would be the most random trivia question ever. Who's the one fighter to knock out Floyd Mayweather? And if it was Aaron Chalmers, I mean, that would just be hilarious. But that's a whole other thing. We're here to talk about Paul Fury supposedly finally happening. This is our third time, and honestly, with each rebooking, I've gotten less interested. I don't know if I'm alone in this. People in the comments, I don't know if you're with me, but like I thought it was a cool idea at first. Now it's like I just want to see Jake Paul fight Nate Diaz. Throw some other options out there. I'm sure there's other names you could say you'd rather see him fight than Tommy Fury. But I still want to see this happen. I hope this does not fall through. We've written about it too much. We've watched too much videos. We've talked about it. We've put too much time into this now. We deserve this. We in the combat sports media deserve this. The fans, I mean, I guess you guys deserve it too, whatever. We deserve this. I love my job. I love writing about combat sports. I enjoy writing about a lot of the Jake Paul freak show influencer boxing stuff. I do. I think people sometimes see how many posts we do on the site and they're like, oh, these guys must be doing it against, because I have to. I'm like, no, it is intriguing to me the direction that combat sports is going in. I'm not saying I love it, but it's certainly intriguing and it's worth writing about and chronicling. And this feels like an important fight in this chapter that we're in right now of this weirdo combat sports, again, influencer boxing. It feels like it just has to happen so we can move on. And if it doesn't happen, let's also move on. If for some reason, heaven forbid, these guys don't get into the ring on Sunday, let's still move on. No more rebookings. Let's put it there in the legendary battle shelf, right next to Khabib and Tony Ferguson, right next to each other. Put them right there on the shelf, and we'll talk about them in the same way, I'm sure.
Jed, do you have any skepticism here? Is there a part of you deep down that feels like this fight isn't going to happen on Sunday?
No, it's going to happen. I feel pretty confident about it. I didn't feel that way always. Like, certainly if this, a month ago, I would have been like, I could. But like, Tommy Fury is not Dylan Dennis, right? Like, Tommy Fury has shame. I believe that shame does exist for him. And at this point, you can't. There is no way or reason for him to back out. I take him at his word that the first time that he backed out, he was injured. And the second one, like, legitimately, it's that wasn't his fault. He could not get a visa. Like, that's not, and we could talk about why he couldn't get a visa if you want to take that as the blame, but like that couldn't be done. They are there. If he backs out this time, they won't rebook it. The fight will just never happen. And he'll never live that down. And for someone like Dylan Dennis, who has made a career now of just being laughing stock, that's okay. But Tommy Fury, that doesn't feel like his vibe. It's just not really, I think, where he wants to be or is. And honestly, if nothing else, like, it kind of feels like his brother and father would make him if he wanted to back out, which I don't even think he does. I think we're gonna get it, and then we can move on. AK, we will have our hopefully we don't get a draw or something weird, and we can just go forth and prosper.
What do you think, AK? I mean, I will say this. I didn't think about this. I didn't give this fight a second thought until somebody brought it up like a week ago. I forgot it was even happening, and I brought it up on BTL yesterday. And I got to say, Jed brought me over the line a little bit. I'm still not 100% in a position where I'm like, I'm definitely going to buy this fight on Sunday and watch it. But I might now. I was at a no, like, yesterday at noon Eastern, but now I'm like, I'm at a solid maybe. AK, where are we at? Like, has the anticipation at least grown for you here? Or is this just more like, I hope it happens so we can just move on with our lives and get ready for Jake Paul versus the next guy?
Let people know, first of all, I can't lie to America. I never have. Unblemished record of truthfulness, truthity with America.
Truthiness.
Truthiness. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. I believe I am covering this for the site, so I have a vested interest. People couldn't figure that out already. I am covering it for the site, so I will be watching no matter what. So I'm not the person to trust necessarily with the question of like, oh, will you or will you not be watching this? I'm obligated to, and again, I want to. These things interest me. I'm happy to be covering. But one aspect of the fight, Mike. So here, I'll give you my take now. That I had this morning. I had a moment of clarity when I was thinking of what am I going to say about this fight that hasn't already been said, given that we've sort of talked about the lead up to it two other times already, and now this third time we're trying to get through it. First of all, unrelated to this take, the best part of the build up this time was Papa Fury going nuts and like taking his shirt off and wanting to fight Jake Paul the last time they were in the same like general vicinity. That was fantastic. That was genuinely awesome and hilarious. A little sad, I guess, in a way as well, but also I was overall a net positive. So that helped get my interest back up a little bit, though I would rather see him fight like the Tommy Fury's dad now at this point. But this is what we're getting. This is what we're getting. But my take is this. My turd in the punch bowl is this, Mike. I don't love the discussion that he's finally facing a real boxer. Unless I mean, is that being overplayed? I keep hearing it, and maybe I'm just listening to the wrong people, Mike. Do you think that's being overplayed?
No, but explain yourself.
Okay. I still think Tommy Fury is more famous for, and listen, I don't live in the UK. I don't have my finger on the pulse.
1,000%, he is more famous for being on Love Island.
I don't have my finger on the pulse of UK, pop culture, but yes, that's how he became famous.
I know people here who know Tommy Fury because of Love Island. Like I have American friends who know who Tommy Fury is, and it is not because they've watched him become a 9-0 boxer.
No,
Like,
they
yeah,
don't know
for
they don't know
1,000%.
they don't know anything about his boxing. They know, one, that he's a reality TV star, and two, that he is, related to Tyson Fury. That might be all they know about his combat sports career. You couldn't ask them like, "Oh, is he a good boxer?" It's like, "Oh, they wouldn't know." It's like, "Oh, yeah, they probably assume he boxed and that he's good just because he's a Fury." So for me, and the reason I say it's not a real boxer yet, this is not, and I'm not criticizing the matchmaking, Mike. You've covered this beautifully on multiple Heck of a Mornings, multiple preview shows, talking about how the matchmaking is done for guys like Jake Paul. This early in their careers, like you're not throwing them in there with legit contenders. It just makes no sense. So I have no beef with that. But I do have a quibble with people saying this is a real boxer, because Tommy Fury, again, he doesn't pass the Zoolander Fabio test. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
I've seen the
I'm
movie
trying to think of what
Zoolander
it was.
100 times.
So at the
I'm trying to
beginning of
think
Zoolander, there's the amazing awards show scene.
who's Fabio?
No, there's
I
an
don't-
amazing awards show scene where Fabio wins an award, and he wins the award for best. I think it's best actor / model, and then he goes up, and part of his acceptance speech is like, I'm so grateful that I am now thought of as an actor / model and not the other way around. So Tommy Fury does not pass that test. He is not boxer / reality star Tommy Fury. He is reality star / boxer Tommy Fury. Just like Jake Paul, I think, is still YouTube star, social media influencer / boxer Jake Paul. So until he faces someone, I think, who is primarily known for boxing, and again, I know it could be a while till we see it happen, if ever, and he has so much leverage that never has to happen, and that's fine. Like I said, I'm enjoying the way his career is going. I just don't want that. I just don't think this fight justifies that narrative of, oh, he beats Tommy Fury, he finally beat a real boxer. Like, no, he's a famous guy first and a boxer second. That doesn't mean he's a terrible boxer. I mean, people can be the judge of that, watch their fights. But it does mean that, again, he did not become famous by becoming a boxer. That is not Tommy Fury's. That is not how he came up. He came up in a boxing family, but that's not how he came up. He came up to prominence through other means. So he's a reality star, something else / boxer, not the other way around. Until Jake Paul fights someone who we know as a boxer first, then I will go, he has beaten an actual boxer. I don't even care if they don't have a great record, just someone that we know as a boxer. But obviously, Jake Paul doesn't have to do that. He's in this whole other world here. But again, I'm just picking this little nit out of the hype for this fight.
Jed, what are your thoughts on this? Because there are people, especially in the boxing community, who would sort of disagree with AK only because Jake has taken a much different path to get to where he's at, fighting the Nate Robinsons and the Ben Askrens and the Tyron Woodleys and the Anderson Silvas. And while Tommy Fury's opponents' boxing records are horrendous, that's how it typically goes in pro boxing, where you fight. It's the journeyman syndrome. You fight guys who, and I saw somebody talk about this earlier. I think it was someone from the Sporting News, that when you look at like the traditional boxing way to make the come up to pad your record to 6-7-0, 7-0, 8-0, and all the way up before you take that next step, you're fighting guys who fight like every 3 weeks to pay bills and put food on the table, and win or lose, it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. Journeyman fighters who fight like every month just to make a few grand, pay the mortgage, do this, do that. It's a full-time job for them. But that's the traditional boxing route that a lot of fighters who have gone on to have success have taken. Now, I don't know if a lot of those fighters have victories over athletes with records such as 10, 102, and 3, but some sub 500 records in there, some bad records in there. But do you agree with what AK is saying? Because Tommy takes the more traditional ish boxing route, more so than Jake Paul. That's for sure.
All right, let's clarify what you mean by some bad records in there. The combined resumes of his 8 opponents: 24, 176, and 5. He has not fought anyone good. Just none of them. And more important than that, though, because that's not super uncommon, he hasn't even annihilated these people. That is the more concerning part, if we want to get into that. But no, I disagree with AK. Tommy Fury is a pro boxer. That's what he is. Yes, the reason he is famous, and certainly the reason he is getting this opportunity, is in large part facilitated by the fact that he was on a reality television show. But the truth of the matter is, if he had never gone on Love Island, Tommy Fury would be known among boxing circles because of his name, because he is the half brother of the heavyweight champion. Things may have rolled out differently, but he this is what he does primarily. Primarily, he is a boxer, and that's like he is it. And the truth is, we don't need to hold the word be like a pro boxer isn't some level of elevation to like, ooh, this guy is unbelievable. Like there are big ranges in pro boxing. For instance, Tommy Fury's first opponent, I have this up, Jevgenij Andreevich's a record of
Nailed
10
it.
and 102.
You nailed
Nailed
it.
it.
Yeah,
Killed it.
you nailed it.
I'm
Yeah.
brilliant. He has a record of 10 and 102. He's bad, but if you fought well over 100 times, I'm going to go ahead and say you're a professional. Like you are a professional boxer. You might be shit, but you are a professional. Truth is, Tommy Fury is a professional boxer. I don't think this is a step up in competition for him from Anderson Silva. I think it's probably a lateral step, but it will test different things about Jake Paul. And I'm kind of done not doubting Jake Paul, because we should always doubt him. He's not good. He's not bad, but he is not a good boxer. But like this is a calculated step, and there are reasons. And this isn't him taking on Battle of Jack or anything like that. But this is about what's right. He's said this a lot during his come up. People are ripping me for these fights, but this is how boxing careers go. Like I've fought tougher opponents than your favorite boxers in their first things, and that's not false. It's also not like all the way true, and certainly there are some differences, and you could find countermanding points there. But it's like, yeah, most pro boxers, they come up like this. They don't fight guys who are very good, and it lets them develop and figure out what they are good at, how they work under pressure. And the truth is, we're about to watch two undefeated young boxers take reasonable steps in their next steps in their career if they want to go forward. And that's okay. It's totally reasonable.
AK, what do we think about the matchup here? Like in general, just it's hard to like look at like stylistic stuff here when it comes to these two guys because they are relatively new to the sport. Yeah, Tommy has fought more professional boxers, but Jake has had, big moments and big spotlights. The Anderson Silva one was probably like the brightest spotlight in terms of competition and actual questions being asked of him. But what are some of the questions that you have about this fight in particular on either side, whether it's Jake or whether it's Tommy Fury?
Listen, I think Tommy has talked so much guff that like I feel like there's a little more pressure on his side, and I would even go as far as say like he has to knock Jake Paul out, or at least have some sort of if he's like clowning him for like it's an 8-round fight, right? What is it we're doing here? 8 rounds? Yes, 10 rounds? 8 rounds. So. If he clowns him for 8 rounds, just styles on him, you know what? That would also be great for Tommy Fury. But I think no matter what, I think if Tommy Fury even like goes the distance and it's close, it in some ways this has to feel like a loss for him, just because like they both talked a lot. I mean, they've had now since the first booking of this fight, December 2021, so over a year, and then again that was when they were scheduled to fight. They were hyping the fight up way before that, so we're talking like closer to 18 months of these two guys talking trash, calling the other guy out, calling each other a coward. But for me, because Tommy is, he comes from the boxing family. As we've said, he is a little more credible as a boxer. He's had the more traditional route as far as the guys he's faced a lot of actual like journeyman boxers. How you want to compare them to Jake Paul fighting MMA fighters and basketball players, I don't know. That's up to you. I understand why Tommy Fury has made the point like, hey, I'm aware of the record of my opponents, but I am fighting actual boxers. These guys are trained to box, and they're tough guys and whatever. That's the argument Tommy Fury makes. So I think because he's the real boxer, again, a narrative I'm kind of trying to shoot down. He is a pro by the strictest definition, but there's that pressure on him. I don't know if they'll go as far as him being disowned by the Fury family. I think they've kind of said that tongue in cheek, like, oh, you know what? Listen, he can stay in Saudi Arabia if he doesn't beat Jake Paul. But I think even like a lackluster showing, I don't know where Tommy Fury goes out of this. Jake Paul, I've said it a bunch of times. I don't know if him winning matters that much. There is so much bad blood between them. Of course, he wants to win. Of course, it's much much better for the Jake Paul brand if he wins. But I think if he loses, I think he still has that like Nate Diaz fight on the table. Maybe I'm overestimating it, but I think he still has that. I think he still has other people that want to fight him. Him and KSI keep talking. They're kind of on and off about how much they're into wanting to make that happen. But I think those fights are there for Tommy Fury. If he loses to Jake Paul, and he still wants to continue boxing, which I mean, if people are saying in the comments he's a real boxer, he does. I don't know where you go from there. I don't know where you matchmake for him after that. I don't know what lucrative fights are still lined up for him if he loses to Jake Paul or doesn't like really put away Jake Paul as he's claimed he can do because he's a real boxer. That's my big question: is can Tommy Fury, not can Tommy Fury win because I think he can't, but can he really really win in a convincing way? I'd be very entertained to see it, but again, even based on the non Jake Paul opponents he's faced, I haven't seen that extra gear from him, but we'll see on Sunday.
Jed, do you agree with that? Do you feel like Tommy has more pressure to win or needs to win this fight more than Jake Paul does?
Probably needs to win the fight more than Jake Paul, just because I do think Jake Paul has like a pretty good safety net here with the loss. But I don't know. Like, that's part of the reason I'm interested in this fight is that there are real stakes here. It's not for the cruiserweight championship of the world. It's not for being even a good cruiserweight. I know that apparently Jake Paul will get ranked by the WBC, which is hilarious and insane. But like this isn't for those kind of stakes. But this matters. Both dudes really want and need to win this fight, and both dudes really need to not lose this fight for all of the other reasons that you compete for pride, for ego, for money, for future opportunities. Like, I think Jake Paul can suffer a loss because he has a built-in KSI fight at the minimum and still probably can make Nate Diaz work. And so like his opportunities won't dry up. But you talk a bunch of greasiness, man, you got to be able to back it up or be able to suffer the consequences of not being able to do so. And I don't know Jake Paul, but I suspect that he doesn't want to live in a world where he uh, has to listen to Tommy Fury call scoreboard on him, and much the same for Tommy Fury. Like this is just like this. These are two invested guys, and the stakes matter here in a way that not every fight does. Like it is very real, and it's part of what has me like genuinely interested in this fight. There's been a long buildup. Let's actually get the resolution here. And frankly, this is a fight where I think we get to learn something about Jake Paul. And at this point in time, he is a going concern in my life. Like I have to engage with him now because that's I didn't think 3 years ago that he would be, but he is. And so in spite of maybe my preferences, like I have interest in where his career is going because it was relevant to me in that regard as well. So like I'm in. I am going to watch this fight on Sunday. I'm not covering it, I'm not working it, but I want to see what happens.
So what has been kind of interesting over the last couple of days are the betting lines, because I looked at it maybe yesterday, and I think Jake Paul is like a minus 175 favorite. I think a couple of days before that, he was a minus 190 favorite. And I'm looking at two lines right now. One has Jake Paul as a minus 130 favorite. Tommy Fury comes back at plus 115. And another has Jake Paul minus 125 and the comeback on Tommy Fury is plus 110. So it looks like some money coming in on Tommy Fury. AK, what is your prediction? Will Jake Paul's rise in the boxing world continue, or will Tommy Fury's rise in the boxing world continue?
How is anyone supposed to make an educated guess about this? I get it. That's my job. This is why you have me on the show. I'm supposed to say, oh, I've been watching all this Jake Paul. I rewatched the Jake Paul Anderson Silva fight. I rewatched the two fights with Tyron Woodley. I watched the fight with Nate Robinson. I was trying to figure out some of his offensive tendencies. No, it's what I don't know what you could take away from these. I'm picking Jake Paul. I think she's got a bit more power. I just haven't been super impressed from what I've seen from Tommy Fury. Again, I'm sure a smarter person than I could break down like, oh well, Tommy's so much more technically proficient here and there, and I just don't know if he's that much more advanced than where Jake Paul is. As crazy as that sounds, given Tommy's background, given that he comes from this boxing family, I think we've said one of the great advantages that Jake Paul has is he has a ton of money. He has a ton of money. He has a ton of time. This is a luxury that a lot of up and coming boxers don't have. He can say, listen, I have no other obligations for the next whatever 3 or 4 months. I'm going to train, just focus solely on boxing. I can afford to bring in some of the best boxers to spar rounds with me. Your average 6-0 boxer does not have those luxuries, and I don't know what Jake Paul's ceiling is. Like I said, he may never become a actually half decent boxer, but on this level in the influencer realm, with those advantages, I think he could I don't know why I would ever pick against him. I think the last time I did was the Tyron Woodley, the first fight. I'm pretty sure I picked Tyron to beat him the first fight, and after that I was like, well, I'm on, like, it wasn't a great fight. It wasn't a dominant win for Paul or anything, but I'm like, okay, I get it. I kind of see why people are saying this guy's good, and then the whole money thing came to my mind, and that's the advantage he has. And Tommy Fury, I get it. He has the background, he has the resources to train too, but I just don't know, compared to how much Jake Paul has thrown himself into this, that I can favor him. So I'm with the betting public for now. But boy, I don't know how you compare again. Oh, Jake Paul doing well against MMA fighters and a basketball player, and Tommy Fury doing against journeyman. It's just not. I don't think it's comparable. So I don't know how much you can draw from that. So I'm going Paul for me. I think it's a safer pick. But I mean, if you're telling me I think he's going to destroy Fury, I am not making that claim at all. But if I have to make a pick, it's Jake Paul by decision on points.
Jed Meshew, what's your pick?
Take Jake Paul by decision. But again, this fight this is the first fight where we can actually maybe see something layered that comes in here. Just because God love Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva is a better boxer than Tommy Fury, and a better boxer than Jake Paul in most regards. He's also a 50. So Anderson was only going to be able to do what he did in that fight. And we saw in that fight, Anderson have a lot of success the times that he tried, but he just can't keep up a work rate. And Jake, to his credit, his team, again, to AK's point, he has a lot of money. He is invested in this heavily with time and money, and that will make you some level of proficient. And his team rightly assessed, we can just kind of outwork Anderson in the middle parts of this fight and rack up rounds. And then he landed that short right hand during the exchanges, kind of sat Anderson down, and that's all it took. It's the best performance of Jake's career by far. But we also saw him not do well when there's an opponent who doesn't just fold under pressure and can throw back in combination with him, who can get him moving backwards, because he hasn't spent a lot of time not fighting with the initiative. Tommy Fury is not good, but Tommy Fury, his brother's with one of, if not the best actual just full-on fighter in the world, and knows how to assess a fighter, make a game plan, and attempt to effectuate that game plan. I'm really interested to see to what extent Tyson Fury and their father can get Tommy to do more than he has shown before, because what we've seen is Tommy has a pretty good jab. It's not unbelievable, but he's long and he can work a jab. He doesn't follow it up a ton, and he's really content to go for clinches, slow fights down, and keep a really limited pace here, which is why he's got a bunch of decisions in his 8 fights. And I don't think that will be effective against Jake, who is going to try and keep a pace up. But if he can get Jake moving backwards, young fighters all suck fighting off the back foot. That's universal to every combat sport. It's way more difficult to fight moving backwards, and Jake just hasn't had to. If Tommy can take that initiative, then we're going to see something. We're going to have to see adjustments and things move out. I'm ultimately siding with Jake because Jake has really managed his career exceptionally well thus far. And I think you just kind of should give him the benefit of the doubt in knowing the guys who he can beat, and then making that happen. But this is the first fight where he is fighting someone young. Forget about the pro boxer stuff. That doesn't matter. He is fighting someone who, at least theoretically, can match him in a lot of the things that he has leaned heavily on thus far in his career. And that makes it interesting. I do sort of think Tommy Fury has looked a little bit shook at points in time, playing armchair psychologist here. And so that adds into why I'm picking Jake. But like I could see this fight going a bunch of different ways, and that's why I'm actually interested in it. This isn't like, well, either Anderson's going to knock him out because he's way better, or Anderson's simply too old to fight a dude who is young and willing. No, like there are layers here, and that's why I'm interested.
If I have to choose between the two, I'm picking Jake Paul for a lot of the reasons you guys said. But if I have to make a bet on this fight, I'm playing the draw card plus 1,200.
Oh,
boom. Let's go. It's by like default, but I feel like a draw is very live with this fight. It's extremely live with this fight. And even if they fight to a draw and it's somewhat compelling and nobody loses, we can both move on with our lives.
Okay.
They had their fight. They punch each other in the face. They can move on with their lives. Jake,
we're not moving on. If they go to a draw, we're definitely running this back.
I don't know.
If this fight
not
is
right away.
Close, if this fight is even close,
no way.
They are probably gonna, because it's maybe if it's a draw or if Tommy loses like narrowly, Jake just moves on to Nate. But I think that we should be hoping for a definitive answer one way or another. If your goal is to not see this again, hope for a definitive answer.
Yeah, I don't know though. I mean, I think they have it out. It is what it is. Jake proved that he could go with the boxer, and Tommy proved he didn't get knocked out. So it's a win for us all. It's a win for both guys. No one suffers. No one gets that O. And we move on to other things. Tommy Fury could sign with Misfits Boxing and make a floppity $1 jillion fighting the Anthony Taylors again of the world, and Jake can go box Nate and continue doing what he's doing. Maybe have an MMA fight. That would actually be something that I could see happening. If they fight to a draw in the boxing ring, maybe Tommy Fury comes over to the dark side and they do the MMA fight for PFL.
That's probably
Mike.
Really
What are you doing? What are you doing, Mike? What are you doing?
Now you got
that just seems like a really bad idea for Tommy
doing?
Fury to accept that.
Who wins? Jake Paul 54%, Tommy Fury 33%, and a small bunch 12% saying the fight might not happen. Something could go haywire in the next couple of days. So, but pretty big. Otherwise, pretty confident. 55%, 54%. Jake Paul.
I actually thought that not going to happen number was going to be a little bit higher. But...
Me too.
All right. Do we have any questions, Casey?
If Tommy Fury pulls out of this fight, he is already in Saudi Arabia. If he pulls out, like you can't come back from that. You just can't recover from it. Tyson will just make him fight because of the stain on the family name. Like he has to fight. And I think he wants to. I think he thinks he can win this fight. And maybe he can. We're going to find out.
All right. Do we have any questions about this fight?
Good questions or just questions?
Troll questions.
I mean, I don't expect much, but
yeah.
All questions are good questions, people. Throw them up in the YouTubes. All questions are good questions, please.
I try to stay away from the hypothetical questions, like the if questions, because we can talk about that after the fight. What happens if Jake loses? What happens if Jake wins? The whole thing
is hypothetical.
Yeah.
This whole thing is hypothetical. Hypothetically, Tommy shows up. Well done, AK.
It is. Hypothetically, Jake Paul's he's finally beaten a real boxer if he beats Tommy Fury. I don't know. Like this whole thing is hypothetical. Like I don't blame people who are suffering from Paul Fury fatigue and the fight hasn't even happened yet, because again, we've kind of been dealing with this for 18 months, and it's not even like a matchup that, like I said, it made sense the first time it was talked about. It's not like everyone was like, man, I need to see Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. Like, this is so sick. It's just like, oh, this makes sense for both guys. This is the next step for Jake Paul. This is the next step for Tommy Fury. Jake Paul, even with the Fury fights not happening, obviously found other arguably more interesting things to do. And so now that we're getting it, like I said, I keep, driving this home. It just feels obligatory. Tommy Fury is the mandatory challenger to Jake Paul, if that makes sense. All right, if you want some boxing, he's the mandatory challenger. It's not necessarily the guy we want the most. If we had to choose between, let's say we cancel this and a week from now he fights Tommy Fury or he fights Nate Diaz, I'm pretty sure 90% of the MMA community would say, yeah, throw Nate Diaz in there instead. We're fine with Tommy Fury not happening. So it's not even the fight we want the most. It's just we got to do this, and then we can all, as a community and as a family, guys, we can all move on. I feel like we can all move
to
on.
what extent do you care about the Nate Diaz? Like, are you interested? Would you rather he be fighting Nate Diaz?
I love it. I love it. Maybe
Why?
I don't know, Jed. I don't know.
I have no, like, that fight makes
have a good
zero
reason.
sense to me.
But you don't want to see Nate Diaz really box, though, Jed, right? You don't care about that, correct?
In general, no.
Yeah. So
but also, like, I'm extremely confident Nate Diaz loses in a boxing match to Jake Paul because Jake Paul will outweigh him by 25 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, this isn't. I just watched Jake Paul beat Anderson Silva. Nate Diaz is extremely similar at this stage of his career in that maybe in his prime he's a better technical boxer, but he's old and he's tiny compared to Jake Paul, who is not a small man. Like, that fight has once the Anderson Silva fight happened, the Nate Diaz fight was like, I don't care about this one at all. I know we're gonna get it. This, at least there's some level of intrigue to this fight to me. Nate Diaz is just. I want it to happen so Nate Diaz can make a lot of money. That's the only interest in it for me.
Yeah. I don't know.
I have no counter. I honestly have no counter. I don't know why I want to see this. You're right. The Anderson Silva fight was almost like the peak of like, okay, which MMA guy do I want him to see? But see, Anderson Silva thing is, but the build though, Jed, the build. Anderson Silva can't build a fight like Nate Diaz can. Like the trash talk between him and Jake Paul will be, don't get me wrong, insufferable, and not exactly, the number of memorable quotes will probably
the pre-fight brawls
far
will
between.
Be great. All the weigh-in
that's
brawls,
what I want.
The press conference brawls, the whatever.
That's
brawls,
what I want to see.
I saw at the Anderson Silva fight. There was a brawl in the hallway outside the Jake Paul's locker room. What?
Oh yeah, what happened there?
It was.
I don't remember what that was
It
about.
was Nate and Chris Sevilla, because that's why Nate was there. Chris
Chris,
was on the card.
of course. Chris Avila is always involved in these things.
Yeah, and drinks and bottled waters were thrown, but Jake Paul wasn't involved directly. It was actually Jake's corner because they were in the hallway outside.
Yeah.
But
I remember this now.
How do I put this nicely? Nate Diaz attracts a certain crowd of people that I would like to see at these events. There we go. Let me put it that way. There is a 209 in the house, needs to be in the house, is what I'm saying. And I want to see the Nate Diaz crowd interact with the Jake Paul crowd. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I hope anybody gets hurt. I just like to see human interaction. Is that so wrong? Does that make me a bad person? I don't think so.
Right, but for the most part, the Jake Paul crowd likes Nate Diaz because I saw it in person in Tampa. Because Nate was at the Woodley rematch, and I mean, Nate came off like he was the biggest superstar on the planet. I mean, he had police escorts out there because he was freaking everywhere. They had to close down certain things so he could get by. I mean, people were just all over. Like he came off like I always knew he was popular and I always knew he was a star, but actually seeing him walk around that arena in Tampa that night and just seeing how many people wanted to take pictures of this man, the round of applause he got from everybody that he walked by, like it was incredible. I was like, holy cow, he's a way bigger crossover star than I ever could have thought. He's a massive. The fight makes no sense from like, let's book fights, but it's going to do bananas in business, bananas. So let's just get it done.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, KSI versus Jake Paul is going to do bananas business, and I also don't care about that fight.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. It's going to happen. It's fine.
Oh, we talk. Yeah, I guess two different conversations: business versus do we actually care in a sporting sense? And
I still kind of do.
Nate will lose.
I love your optimism for Nate Diaz. I love your optimism.
Nate will still come out like a winner though, because he'll land a big shot at some point in the fight.
I don't even know that that's true.
Take a step back. Just one. You don't think he lands a shot in the fight? He'll land shots.
Jake's gonna make him fight in like 12-ounce gloves, dude. Nate Diaz doesn't have KO power in 4-ounce gloves and boxing gloves. He is just gonna mostly not do anything because we've seen it. Like The days of Nate Diaz being a volume, put a pace on you fighter are gone. Watch the Tony fight. How much of the Tony fight did Nate just like kind of sit there and do the Nate Diaz things? Because that's what happens when you get old. You don't want to do the same shit anymore. You can't fight at that incredible put a pace on. I'm not saying he gasses, but he's not going to throw 300 punches in that fight. He's mostly just going to get
when does that
I'm gonna give
matter,
Nate the
though?
benefit because he was training for Shmaev, and I doubt he did. Yeah.
That's right, Casey. And another thing, he also is training to mix the martial arts, which is very exhausting mentally. It's confusing.
It is.
Imagine confusing. if you tell Nate Diaz, Nate, you don't got to worry about mixing the martial arts. None of that jujitsu, which you love so much, but you're so great at it. Don't worry. You don't worry about it. You just worry about the punchy now. Throw a little slap in there. You can slap in a boxing glove. It's not encouraged, but you can. But you can. Throw that in there. I think he would. You're right. I don't think we see the old Nate Diaz ever again, Jed. I think you're right that pace used to be able to cut, but I think you'd see hints of it if he's just focusing on boxing, kind of like we saw with Anderson and the Cesar Chavez Jr. fight, right? You saw hints of the old Anderson. Yeah, I think you'll see that with Nate as well.
But we won't get it every round. He just needs to talk
smack. If he just talks smack and points at Jake and like lands a punch, like that's cool. He gets his highlight and that's it. Like, and he'll probably still lose the fight, but who cares? He always finds a way to come off looking like a winner.
And the reason I still do like that fight, because like you said, if you think Nate would get his butt kicked by Paul, I kind of want to see that, because I want to see Jake Paul like put a whooping on somebody like Nate Diaz. You know, I don't think it's gonna happen, but it could, obviously. But I just want to see it because we haven't seen something like that yet. That's all, you know. And just to really finish him on the feet, you know, like but it could be just bad fight too. But I don't know.
Also, come on, we know what would actually happen. Nate would get cut immediately because it's boxing. Like, the glove will immediately cut Nate. He will bleed like a stuck pig, and the fight will get stopped very quickly.
One thing, guys, we didn't talk about at all. I see people mentioning in the comments, not really a question, but a few people mentioning it. The Suleiman promising if Jake Paul wins, he will be ranked in the WBC top 40 cruiserweight rankings. I see also people saying Tommy Fury. I don't think the guarantee is there for Tommy Fury. I think the guarantee is strictly there for Jake Paul. And by the way, and what a brilliant move. I had to say, that is, when I saw that, when I wrote that up, I said, that is so smart. That is so smart to have. He's not signed to WBC has nothing to. What's their involvement with this fight?
Can someone explain? Because I actually don't know what that really means. But the fact that, because I've never heard this, like, you know, Dana White saying, you know, whatever. Yeah. If Drew Dober wins, we guarantee he's ranked. I was like, what? You know, I mean, I'm just using names, but like, what does that mean? Because I don't really know what that means. A guaranteed ranking.
My understanding is they have some sort of internal rankings panel, and Mr. Suleiman probably at any point can say, "Hey guys, make sure you rank Jake Paul." It's not an independent. It's why they can make belts whenever they want. You know, they make all these honorary belts all the time. It's a boxing promotion. They can do whatever they want. So if they want to say, comes Monday morning, Jake Paul is a top 40 cruiserweight in the not necessarily in the world, in the WBC's rankings, they can do that. And it's kind of brilliant because.
I just want to be. This is not the WBC is not a boxing promotion. Because it is an organization. It is a sanctioning body.
One of the big four.
That is the entire thing of the Ali Act, is that belts are not held by promotions. Promoters are separated from organizations and sanctioning.
Correct.
Bodies. I just want to make sure that was very clear.
Yes. There's a big difference. That's a big difference. So correct. Sorry. So this organization, but I mean, what a great idea to have Jake Paul attaching his name to an organization without having any actual. As far as I know, I don't think they have any actual business association with, like, they're not involved in this fight, right? The WBC is not involved. I guess the co-main, they are involved with the co-main, right? That is for the WBC.
No, they are, it would appear, for the vacant. Wait, I'm looking at this on Wiki.
Help me.
It looks like on Wiki. Oh no, this is for the co-main. I was about to say it looks like they are fighting for some sort of a fake belt.
Yes.
But no, I think the co-main is
right.
The belt they're fighting.
So the WBC is involved with the card. I just don't know if they're involved with the Jake Paul Fury fight. But again, they're an organization that can do whatever they want with their rankings. And if they want to rank Jake Paul and have his name on their website and say, "Hey, Jake Paul's a ranked boxer," they can do that. That's just kind of, and I think that's a really cool piece of publicity. So
take this for what it's worth. the Wikipedia does, as I'm confirming, says that the Paul Fury fight is for the vacant WBC Diriyah belt. Diriyah being the city
where
and
it's
arena venue. So
yes,
it's just it's a
Great.
WBC belt. They make a lot
Great.
of belts.
Great. And more power to them. What do we
It
say
would
all the
appear
time?
that they're the sanctioning body for this fight. Is what I'm
Listen.
gleaning from this.
What do we say all the time? Belts are props. Belts are props. If you want to make props for no reason for your silly fight billed as the truth, well, do it. It's fun. It's hilarious. It's something for Jake Paul or Tommy Fury to take home. I'm all for it, and I think the ranking thing is great as well.
So the winner will be a champion tomorrow.
I mean, they're gonna have
I'm
a
not
belt.
really
Casey.
sure how to qualify that.
They're gonna have it. There'll be a title. There'll be literally a title holder.
They won't be a weight class champion, but they will have a belt. They will not be the cruiserweight champion or whatever, but it's like, they're fighting for that belt. The violence weight belt of Diriyah, Saudi Arabia. That's what they're fighting for.
Didn't they make a fake belt for Mayweather McGregor too?
Oh yeah, there's the money belt.
Money belt.
The money
The
belt.
money
They
belt.
fight. They do. They do this.
But it was
for
like
all
the
of these
WBC money belt, right?
Uh-huh.
I think it was something silly like that.
Dude,
All right.
Misfits, KSI is a belt holder or whatever. He owns the Misfits, whatever. Like belts are extremely props, as AK said.
And they're great props. When I say a belt's a prop, I'm not crapping on belts.
No.
Props are good. In combat sports, props rule. Like I love props. This is
in fact, in boxing, belts are probably they don't even have the moral ickiness of being like a leverage play over the fighter because of the way this works. So it's not like the WBC giving Jake Paul this belt if he wins. It's like, you now can only fight in boxing matches that we sanction. That's not how it works. Yay.
From a business perspective, is this fight being aired kind of during normal viewing times for the UK?
I have no idea when's it airing.
2 p.m. Eastern time, I believe, which would be around 5 hours difference. So about I think 7 or 8 o'clock, the card will start. So so when they walk out, it'll be like 10 o'clock. It'll be like a boxing main event time.
Yeah.
That's the time.
On a
UFC
Sunday,
286. UFC 286 is running on like around that time. So yeah, it's about right. A little later. Yeah.
Yeah. I just kind of wondering this whole fight build up seems so different, mainly because it doesn't seem to be for the American MMA fans like the previous fights were. This fight is definitely marketed toward someone that's kind of not us, essentially. It feels like that way, at least. I don't know. Am I just being out Saudi Arabia?
I mean, we're talking about it, so.
Well, I mean, we're talking about it, but we're talking about Nate Diaz more than we're talking about in more kind of debate. I don't know. I'm kind of just like you said. You forgot about this fight, And if this was a Nate Diaz fight, you would not have forgotten about it last week. That's all I'm trying to think.
That's true.
All right. I don't know.
I think we're good.
Anything else?
Yeah, we gave people a chance. We gave people a chance to share their thoughts. I don't see a lot of questions. So
we've been here for 50 minutes. I think we've done.
All right.
I think we've done plenty.
We can always go back to talking about Mike Russo.
Yes. Go watch the preview show. A lot of Mike
Can you
Russo
smell what I'm cooking? Is that how it goes?
You nailed it.
Nailed it. Casey and I will be back 3:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow for the People's Pre-Fight Show. So if you do have questions about Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, we can talk about it there. Or anything UFC Vegas 70. We'll be in the middle of Bellator 291. So we can talk about what's going on there. We'll post-fight show for the UFC card as well. And then Sunday, it's Jake Paul, Tommy Fury time. There'll be a post-fight show for that as well. So lots going on this weekend, including Todd Duffy heading to KSW to fight for the heavyweight title. So just had to bring that name up. That's it. So for AK, for Casey, for Jed, I am Mike Heck. Thank you for watching. Good night, everybody.